Shall we start the morning with prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for your love and your care and your patience. This morning, as we learn the different new modalities that we can use as medical missionaries, again, we ask for understanding and how to utilize them, that we can be most efficient and most effective. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen. So how many of y'all have sprouted before? Most all of y'all, yes. Sprouting is, I enjoy sprouting. It's a way that you can be anywhere in the world. Literally, you can be in Antarctica. As long as you have a grow light, if it's in the dark, and as long as it's warm enough in your little hut, you can sprout. And sprouting is so nutritious. And we're told that sprouting at this point right here is the most nutrition. Did you know that beans, when beans are sprouted, they're 6 times more nutritious than cooked? That's huge. That's huge. I mean, that's a huge return on investment. So let's take a look at how to sprout and their benefits. And as I shared before, we do a lot of how-to classes. Actually, when I get back next week, we have a how-to class on microgreens. Last how-to class was gardening class 101 for new beginners. We may have a how-to class on how to juice, how to make healthy smoothies. And so we do a lot of how-to classes. And it's just a way to get folks into, as we talked about last night, the hub of medical missionary work is where? The church. Yes. And so our church has a lot of how-to classes. And so I'd like to this morning look at how to sprout and the benefits of sprouting. One of the largest benefits of sprouting, grains, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, is that it helps to decrease the presence of anti-nutrients. Anti-nutrients are naturally occurring compounds that are found in plant seeds that interfere with our ability to digest vitamins, minerals within the plants. One of the most well-known and problematic anti-nutrients found in grains, beans, nuts, and seeds is phytic acid. And I call phytic acid a thief. And that's what it is. It's a thief. As the nutrients goes into the digestive system, phytic acid is like a sponge, and it soaks up those nutrients and carries them away, and you don't absorb them then into the villi, then into the blood. It's a thief. And so we want to get rid of the thief. Phytic acid, or phytate, is in the salt form, locks up calcium, copper, iron, magnesium, zinc, and can stunt growth. Now, in America, 85% of Americans, it is said, is deficient in magnesium. Any idea why? The number one diagnosis in America is what? Stress. Stress dumps magnesium. As we go into fight or flight, adrenaline goes up, and to protect the cells from the harmful effects of adrenaline, God put a fire extinguishing system in the body that dumps this chemical that buffers, protects the cells from the adrenaline, the negative effects of the adrenaline. And that chemical is magnesium. So if we're already in a stressful society, if we're in America, it is estimated 85% of Americans are deficient in magnesium. And be sure, do not look at your magnesium lab work that looks at the blood serum, because it is not accurate. You want to look at the RBC, the red blood cells. The majority of your magnesium is in the red blood cells. Only 1.5% to 2% of your magnesium is in the serum, and it's not the same proportionate. We actually have more magnesium in the serum. So when we look at blood serum, which is most labs that we look at, it's going to say, oh, your magnesium's good. But it's only looking at 1.5% to 2%, which there's enough there maybe, but as we look at the majority of your magnesium, which is in the what? Red blood cells, the RBCs, it could be down. And then we have the problem of phytic acid, and we then take even more magnesium away. So we want to be careful and protect that magnesium, very important. Now, magnesium is not as important as calcium. Calcium's the big guy. We got to really protect calcium in the body, very, very important. But magnesium's huge also. Zinc and can stunt the growth. Phytate can lock up 80% of phosphorus, cause calcium excretion, inhibit zinc absorption by 80%. And zinc is so important for our immune system. It's so important for our thyroid. It's so important for our brain. And males are more prone to lose zinc than females. So we gotta protect that zinc. Magnesium absorbed by 40%. Anemia, bone loss, and a host of health conditions can result from deficiencies in these minerals. Why? The thief. And who's the thief? Phytic acid. And have you ever heard that we need to cook our grains well? We've heard that before. And so, minute rice, 3-minute oatmeal, is that good? No. Or maybe folks will take it's kind of a fad in America for folks like, especially on the sports side, to take dry oats and put it in stuff. Is that healthy? No, unless you go and put it in a cookie tray, put it in the oven, heat it at about 180, 200 degrees for 2 hours, and then you can use it in the dry form, whatever you want, but you killed the phytic acid. Very important. Phytic acid also inhibits our digestive enzymes called amylase, trypsin, and pepsin. Amylase breaks down starch, while both pepsin and trypsin are needed to break down protein. In addition to phytic acid and other forms of compounds similar to anti-nutrients can also be found in unsprouted foods. These include anti-nutrients such as polyphenols, which can inhibit digestion of copper, iron, zinc, and B1. B vitamins are huge, y'all. B vitamins are huge. And see, when we are stressed, we dump B vitamins. And B vitamins are just so important for the nerves, very important for the nerves. When we're stressed, we dump something called lithium, another huge important item. And we also dump magnesium again, as we said. But B1 is very important, along with enzymes, proteins, and starches found in plant foods. Enzyme inhibitors. These are found in plant foods and prevent adequate digestion and can cause protein deficiency and gastrointestinal upset. Enzyme inhibitors not only cause digestive problems, they can contribute to allergic reactions and mental illness. Now, I believe that time is short. Do you agree with me? Do we need mental function right now? Pardon? Yeah, even more so now than before. And it's going to be a time as never before. Is that what we're told? Do we need good cognitive function? Yes. And so if we're not breaking the foods down properly, that can affect mental function. Very important. Lectins and saponins, these are anti-nutrients that affect the gastrointestinal lining, contributing to leaky gut syndrome and autoimmune disorders. There's a lot of issues with leaky gut. There's a lot of issues with autoimmune disorders. Lectins are particularly resistant to digestion by humans. They enter our blood and trigger immune responses. Not good. Sprouting grains, legumes, beans, and seeds increase the availability of calcium, iron, and zinc, plus reduces polyphenol, lectins, and tannins content by an average of 50%. So this is a good thing. Do we want more calcium? Yes, calcium is so important to the human body. Iron, is iron important? Sure is. And zinc, absolutely. And by sprouting, we can improve those. We can improve receiving it. And a lot of people, let me go back. There was a study done a number of years ago by the American Dietetic Association, and they wanted to look at why do people eat what they eat. What do you think the number one reason with Americans for why they eat what they eat. Okay, but why do they choose the foods that they choose? Number one. Number one was taste. It then went into ethnicity. Is there ethnic foods? Yeah, there is. I like black-eyed peas. I like grits. You know what? Do you know what black-eyed peas are? Do y'all eat black-eyed peas here? Are you serious? Y'all don't eat black-eyed peas? Well, when I go up north also, up into New York or Vermont or up in that, they don't know what black-eyed peas are either. Do y'all have people grow black-eyed peas here?
We can buy them.
Yeah, you can buy them.
Yes? Oh, they're good. How about grits? Do y'all eat grits?
They look like they have
A little eye on it. Yes. Yes.
Quite big.
They're not too big. They're not, yeah. Oh, black-eyed peas and rice are delicious, y'all. Black-eyed peas.
Is it white?
Yeah.
Is it white?
No, it's kind of a tan, a little tannish look with black on it. Yeah. Yeah. And how about grits? Do y'all eat grits? What is that? No? Grits are from corn. They're called corn grits. Anybody ever eaten grits? Have you enjoyed grits? Have you come to the South yet? We got to get you to the South. And grits are just, that's us. There's white grits, and then there's yellow grits. And yellow grits are a lot more nutritious. And so why do I choose those? I'm from Appalachia. And so a third major cause of people's choice in what they eat was ethnicity. Is there foods from Switzerland or Norway that you eat? Absolutely. I believe it was number 12, nutrition. Why people choose what they eat. Amazing, isn't it? Cost and various other things were in between. But nutrition was way down here. Now, I believe taste is a huge issue, or God would not have given us taste buds. And so taste is important, but nutrition is huge. Yes?
That's because we're not educated enough.
Yes?
That's why.
It's true. A lot are not anymore, are they? Yes. We're educated in just taste and cost. Yeah. And we eat what, you know, genetically predisposed is one of the most misdiagnosed diagnoses. Genetically predisposed. You know what genetically predisposed? That means you're the way you are because of your heritage, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have diabetes because it's your genetics. You have high cholesterol because it's your genetics. And I believe that is one of the most misdiagnosed diagnoses. Yes, genetics is an issue. We're told genetics loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. But now we're learning through epigenetics that we can actually even change the genes. And so just because your granddaddy had high cholesterol and your daddy had high cholesterol doesn't mean you have to. Maybe you're just East Tennessee predisposed because you eat what your daddy ate and your daddy ate what his daddy ate, which is a whole lot of cholesterol in the foods. I've had physicians argue with me that if your granddaddy smokes and he gets lung cancer, and your daddy smokes and he gets lung cancer, and you smoke and you get lung cancer, it's genetically predisposed. No way. When I go in the school system and I talk to kids and I teach this, I'll have a kindergartner tell me, "Mister, it's just because you smoke is why you have lung cancer. Not because your daddy and your granddaddy smoke, that's just horse sense." And so as we look at genetics, yes, there can be some issues, but a lot of it is because you do what your family did. You know what I'm saying? Environmentally predisposed. Oh boy, and we got onto that because of grits. Sprouting increases nutrition absorption of B12. B12 is very important for the brain function, very important for the nerve issues. If you are looking at someone that potentially has Alzheimer's or dementia, First, look if they have a B12 deficiency. It could be just a B12 deficiency. If you have numbness in the fingers and the toes or tingling, check your B12. It could just be your B12. Iron, magnesium, and zinc again. Nutrients, including amino acids and sugars, the form of glucose, and even vitamins and minerals become more available and absorbable. Is that a good thing? Absolutely, it's a good thing. Studies identify that folate increase in sprouting grains up to 380%. Another study found that vitamin C, vitamin E, and beta-carotene in the form of vitamin A were all barely detectable in the dry grains. But sprouting the grains increased their concentration significantly, with peak concentrations of the nutrients being observed after 7 days of sprouting. Sprouting makes foods easier to digest. And do we want easy digestion? We do. Did you know the second most energy production of the heart is digestion of food? As we look at the energy produced by our heart, the second most energy production coming from the heart is to digest food. That is why a person who's in heart failure, the cardiologist says, Henry, I want you to eat, I use Henry a lot. I like that name. I want you to eat light meals, because when you sit down and eat that steak and potatoes, you just might keel over of a heart attack, because it takes so much energy and your heart's just not strong enough. So I want you to eat lighter meals. That's why at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, they have you juice. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But digestion, you want to not cause a lot of energy on digestion. Well, sprouting helps in that. For many people, eating grains, beans, nuts, and seeds is problematic when it comes to digestion and frequently causes inflammation. A major benefit of sprouting is that it unlocks beneficial enzymes, which makes all types of grains, seeds, beans, and nuts easier on the digestive system. So it can actually reduce the inflammation. And inflammation is a huge problem out there today. It really is. Sprouting also helps increase beneficial flora levels in the gut, so that one experiences less of an autoimmune type of a reaction when they eat these various forms of seeds. Do we need good flora in the gut? Sure do. As I was listening one time to a physician at Johns Hopkins, y'all have heard of Johns Hopkins? That's where Ben Carson was. And he says our colon should be like the rainforest. You don't think of that, do you? But it should. All that flora. Depending on the exact seed that is sprouted, protein in the form of amino acids can become more concentrated and absorbable in sprouting foods. Studies show that an increase in amino acids, including lysine and tryptophan, can take place when seeds are sprouted. Do we need tryptophan? What does tryptophan turn into in our brain? Serotonin. And then serotonin turns into what to help us sleep? Melatonin. Yeah, so we need this. This is important. We need serotonin in the brain. Absolutely. Less issues of depression. It's the chemical that's the happy chemical in the brain. Can take place when seeds are sprouted. However, the protein gluten can also decrease in grains when they're sprouted. So if you're needing to reduce the gluten, sprout them. While the concentration of different proteins in sprouted foods seem to vary, most studies indicate that protein becomes more digestible when the seeds are sprouted. There was a nurse. To make extra money, she would go out and she'd draw labs on people. And she would go to churches and businesses and whatever. And she found that this one group she went to, the whole group, like taking all y'all's labs, their protein was low. And so she went person to person. What do you eat? Tell me, what do you eat for breakfast, dinner, supper? All reported they ate good protein. Something's wrong. Well, she went to a physician friend who's a friend of mine, and he went to investigate what was going on. Why did they have not enough protein in their blood? It was the digestive process. See, when they were a group of people at a church that were very conservative, and they worried about everything. They worried about what you did and what you did and what you did and what you did and what that person there did and what that person. You ever seen people like that? They just were worry warts, worry about everybody else. Well, because of that worrying all the time, if you're stressed during the mealtime, it shuts down digestion. And you don't break the proteins down properly, small enough from macronutrients to micronutrients, or small enough to go in these little bitty villi that has little screens to go into the blood. So if you're stressed, it's better not to eat because you're just sending that food right out the feces if you're not breaking it down small enough. Protein breakdown is so, so important. Sprouting can help with protein breakdown. Studies show that when seeds are sprouted, their fiber content increases. That's interesting, isn't it? Studies show that when seeds are sprouted, their fiber content increases and becomes more available. Reports show that sprouting increases concentration of crude fiber, which is the fiber that makes up the cell wall of plants. When we consume plant crude fiber, the fiber cannot actually be absorbed within our digestive tract. Therefore, the increased fiber helps to push waste and toxins out of the gut and to regulate bowel movements. See, we're not absorbing fiber. We don't do that. The fiber does this process and helps, clean the walls and push things through the colon, the digestive tract. Soak and sprout guide. Nuts. Did you know that we need to sprout nuts? We do. Almonds need 2 to 12 hours for soaking. Sprout for 2 to 3 days if truly raw. The length you choose depends on what you want to use them for. For an example, 48 hours of soaking will allow the skins to fall off. But Walt, I don't want soggy sprouts, nuts, almonds. You know what soggy is? Or how you all say it? Soggy or, Soggy, where it's wet. I say soggy. People may say soggy. How would you say it, Mary Lou?
Well, it's going to become soft.
Yeah, but how do you say the word soggy? Okay, soggy. So if it's wet, it's squishy.
Doughy.
Doughy, yes. But I like crunchy almonds. So how do you sprout the almonds and them not be doughy? How could you do that? You'd sprout them, then you could dehydrate them. Yes? And now you have sprouted almonds. And people do that. They will soak their almonds to sprout them, and then they will dehydrate them. That's how you do wheat. Have you ever eaten sprouted grain wheat, any of y'all? Have you ever, what's the bread? Ezekiel bread? Do y'all have Ezekiel bread over here? Yes. It's sprouted bread? Okay, so the way they do it is you take the wheat and the whatever multigrain it is, and you soak it and sprout it. And you sprout it, some of them sprout, they don't even sprout it long enough to even have a little tail on it. But you could. And you could, like you are sprouting wheatgrass. But you sprout it, and then you dehydrate it, you dry it, you dehydrate it, now it's dry again, and then you run it through the mill, and now you have sprouted wheat flour. And it's much more nutritious. And you got rid of the phytic acid, yes?
Is it kind of like you wake the seed up?
Yep, you woke it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now you dried it out so that you can grind it to make, you can't grind doughy wheat berries very well. So you just dry it out, and then you by dehydrating it, and then you can you could probably even freeze dry it, maybe even. Freeze drying is pretty cool, y'all. Walnuts, 4 hours soaking, but they don't sprout. You just soak those. Again, if you want them a little more crunchy, what do? Dehydrate it. Yes, dry them. Brazil nuts, 3 hours soaking. Again, they don't sprout. Y'all eat Brazil nuts here? Yeah. A great source of what? Selenium. Yes, and all you need, about 2 to 4 of them, you got all the selenium you need. Selenium is very important for the thyroid. Very important to prevent cancer. Some people are out there that are selenium people say that one of the major causes of cancer is a lack of selenium. Cashews, 2 to 3 hours of soaking. Again, they don't sprout. Hazelnuts, 8 hours of soaking. They don't sprout. Macadamians, 2 hours soaking. They don't sprout. Pecans, how do you say them? Pecans or pecans?
Pecans.
Pecans, okay. Down in some areas, they call it pecans. 6 hours of soaking. They don't sprout. Pistachios, 8 hours soaking. Don't sprout. Chickpeas, or what's the other name for them? Garbanzos, yes. 8 to 12 hours soaking. You sprout those 2 to 3 days. Lentils, 8 hours soaking. You do sprout those. I like lentils sprouted. 2 to 3 days is all it takes. Sprouting your lentils. Do y'all eat a lot of lentils here? Lentils are a great source of protein. Now, do you ever use the red lentils, which are really not red, they're kind of orange? Not so much? What's the other one? What's the other one, Mary Lee? Green? French lentils. Do you do those? They're a little different. They have different textures. Yeah. But lentils are an excellent source of protein. 18 grams of protein per cup, I believe. That's not bad, is it? 18 grams of protein per cup. Azuki beans, 8 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days of sprouting. Black beans. Are black beans good? Especially with cilantro. Y'all like cilantro? Yeah, black beans and cilantro are really good. Is cilantro something used in Sweden? Much? You have? Mary Lee learned to use cilantro from the Venezuelans and the Colombians. They use a lot of cilantro. 8 to 12 hours soaking, 3 days sprouting. White beans, 8 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Mung beans, that's probably one of the most sprouted beans. Mung beans, 24 hours soaking, 2 to 5 days sprouting. Now, this is really interesting. If you like therapy stuff, like physical therapy and that kind of stuff, in Asia, they'll take like a 5-gallon bucket and they'll put it plumb full of mung beans. And then you put your hand in there and move your hand and move it around. And it actually is a therapy treatment, causing some resistance, but yet not too much resistance. And it helps in range of motion, building back the movement in the hands. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Kidney beans, 8 to 12 hours soaking, 5 to 7 days sprouting. Do y'all use kidney beans here? Yeah, we use a lot of kidney beans. Navy beans, 9 to 12 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Peas, green peas, 9 to 12 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Grains, amaranth, 8 hours soaking, 1 to 3 days sprouting. Buckwheat, 30 minutes, 30 minutes to 6 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Kamut, y'all eat kamut? Some people? 7 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Millet, y'all do millet? Yeah, we do a lot of millet. 8 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Oat groats. You know what a groat is? It don't make a lick of sense to me. What is the seed of wheat called? A berry. It's called wheat berries. So if you have the seeds of wheat, or if you're going to do, say you're going to sprout wheat grass in order to juice to make wheatgrass juice to get the chlorophyll, you take wheat berries. That's the seeds of wheat. But yet for oats, they don't call them oat berries or oat seeds. They call them oat groats. It's just the seed of the oats. So do y'all eat oatmeal here? Yeah, we had it for breakfast. So you can have what's called flaked oats, and that's what we had this morning, was flaked oats. They take the oat groat, they run it through a flaker, which is a smasher, and it smashes it flat. Or you can take, and then they can have, help me out here, Mary Lou, steel cut oats. Have you ever heard of steel cut oats? That's just the oat groat. Instead of smashing it, they kind of just chop it up a little bit. And that's just the groat chopped up a little bit. And that's steel cut oats. So oat groats are the seeds of oats. 6 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Quinoa, y'all do quinoa? Okay. 4 hours soaking, 1 to 3 days sprouting. Wheat berries, see here's the berries, groats, you see the 7 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Do you ever cook wheat berries? My grandma would cook wheat berries, and she'd soak it and then cook it. Just cook it in a pot with water in it, and make it like a porridge. And then we would eat that for breakfast. And I tell you what, that stayed on our ribs all morning until it's time to eat dinner, the noon meal. It just stuck to you well. You know, some people get hungry an hour after they finish eating. There's just they're not eating much there. A lot of times it's called empty calories. See, it's food, but it's empty in calories. And then some people eat, it's empty calories mean, I said it just wrong. Empty calories means it's empty in nutrients, but it has a lot of calories. But what Grandma would make us with the wheat berries, it was nutrition dense. So it didn't have a lot of calories, but it was just packed full of nutrients. And then that stuck on our ribs all day, and we could farm. We could throw hay, we could do whatever we needed to do on the farm because we had good, something that had some meat to it. Wild rice, 9 hours soaking, 3 to 5 days. Now, is that expensive here? That's more expensive at home, wild rice. Okay. Yeah. And so what a lot of folks will do is they'll take their brown rice, mix a little wild rice in it, and so they're getting, it kind of spreads it out. You're still getting some nutrients from that wild rice, but you're not just eating only wild rice and it's more expensive. Stretches it. Black rice, 9 hours soaking, 3 to 5 days sprouting. Seeds. And this is what a lot of folks do. Alfalfa, 12 hours soaking if you want to sprout it. But my concern on soaking alfalfa seeds, I should relook at this one. Dr. Agatha Thrash, she told me one time, she said, Walt, sprouting is good. Sprouting's good. But she said, the only caution I have on sprouting is if you do alfalfa, sprout it at least 5 days. Because there's a chemical in alfalfa that can cause the same type symptoms as MS. Y'all have heard of MS. And so she said, anytime I have a patient comes in with a history of MS or has MS as a diagnosis, and I'm taking their history, I ask them, do you eat alfalfa sprouts? Because when you buy them from the store, you don't know how long they've been sprouted. And it could have that chemical in it, and it could just be because they're eating alfalfa sprouts that they have these MS symptoms, she told me. She says, always ask MS patients if they sprout alfalfa, because it needs to at least be sprouted 5 days, and she says, actually better yet, 6 days. Pumpkin seeds, 8 hours of soaking, 1 to 2 days sprouting. Radish. Now, who likes putting radish? I like radish. Now, by itself, it might be a little tangy, but if you can mix it with alfalfa and some other sprouts, kind of zesty stuff. And I like radish by itself, but some people say it's a little stout. But when you mix it with the alfalfa, it's pretty nice. Sesame seeds, 8 hours soaking, 1 to 2 days sprouting. Sunflower seeds, 8 hours soaking, 2 to 3 days sprouting. Common concerns. One potential downside to consuming raw sprouts is that the process of germinating seeds can make them susceptible to harmful bacterial growth. That is why it's important to be careful about how one prepares and stores sprouted food and to use them relatively quickly if possible. Have you ever seen alfalfa sprouts in the store and they just start going kind of slimy? That's not good. When you put them in the refrigerator, it's best to put them in a little baggie, but don't plumb zip up the baggie. And then if you do put them in the refrigerator, it's best to rinse them at least once a day. You can do it twice a day, being better. That keeps them in good health. And anyway, they don't need to be lasting long anyway. You're eating them. They taste good. And I can eat, if I can literally sit down in a quart, this right here, what y'all call a liter, I could eat this whole thing in a meal. It's kind of like what you were talking about last night. Yes? You can kind of sit down and eat a whole mess of that. Microgreens. And so it shouldn't last a long time. Some of the most common reasons one may have problems when sprouting seeds are the seeds were not raised well enough before soaking. Rinsed well enough. You want to rinse your seeds good. Rinse the seeds before soaking, which can lead to bacteria being present on the hulls and seeds. Now, I don't know over here, but in America, if you want to sprout alfalfa seeds, do not go to the co-op, the farmer's co-op, and you buy the seed that's used for planting alfalfa grass because it has chemicals on it that you don't want to put in you. It's chemicals to, however it's used. Do you know what chemicals they put on it? It's chemicals for growing out in the field. Do you know what those chemicals are?
No, much of it is fungicide.
Fungicides?
Yeah.
Okay.
To prevent get the mold.
Okay, out in the field. Yeah. But I don't want that in me. Yeah. So don't go to the farmer's co-op and buy alfalfa seeds that would be used for growing alfalfa for hay. You want to get your alfalfa, like here's a little box of alfalfa seeds that are meant for sprouting. So the seeds were not rinsed well enough for soaking, and which can lead to bacteria being present in the hull and shells. The water was not changed during the process soon enough or often enough, therefore seeds were left soaking in contaminated water. I don't like leaving, when I make mine, I'll do them in a mason jar, and when I'll set them that first, well, I'll tell you in a few minutes. Time's running fast. Seeds were not left out in the open air and developed mold. The temperature in the room where the seeds were left was either too hot, too high, or too low. The container that was used was not sterile and had bacteria of some kind on it. The seeds themselves had already been cooked in some way and were not truly raw. Okay, so let's talk about sprouting. You can sprout them in containers like these, which is, doesn't that look pretty? You just want to put your hand in there and just wallow around in it. Don't it? That looks good. You can take your seeds and then you can water it and the water will drop down. And these are great tools to use. They really are. Another way you can use them is just in a mason jar. And you say, well, I just don't have the money to buy this yet. It's a very convenient way to do it, not time consuming. And it's a very nice way to do it. And you say, well, right at first, I need to save some money. So just get you a mason jar. And I like a wide mouth mason jar for this. And this isn't a mason jar, but y'all know what a mason jar is, a cannon jar. And so what I'll do is I'll get my seeds, and you want to rinse them real good, as it said. And then I'll put water in. I'll do it at night, and I'll don't do what I did. I mentioned it in the kitchen the other day. Someone told us, Mary Lou's friend told us how to sprout, and so she said put 2 tablespoons in there, and I thought you could sprout a whole lot more than just 2 tablespoons, I'm sure. And I put a whole cup in there, and it broke the jar. Literally broke the jar. And so you can put 2 tablespoons in there and put your water up, and you let it sit all night. Just let it sit all night. And then you can buy tops that have holes in them. They're real small for alfalfa and bigger for beans. But let's say if you don't have that and you're trying to save money at first, well, you just get, y'all call them pantyhose here? Oh, you just get an old pair of pantyhose and put that on top of it and put the ring, and then then that will strain just fine. And then you pour it out, and then you want to rinse it that next morning until it's plumb clear, totally clear, because you don't want that brown in there. You want to, it said to rinse it good, and so you want to rinse it till it's plumb clear, no brown. And then when you're done, you don't want, alfalfa is real prone to sitting there and clump up, and it can get some bacterial growth. And so to prevent that moldy type thing, what I'll do is I'll just rinse it till it's plumb done, and I'll go several times like this. And then you can even sit, and then I'll go like this, and then my seeds are all on the outside, and they're gonna dry pretty good. And then I can sit in the window, kind of like this, put a pencil or something underneath it in the windowsill, or you can put it in the dish drain, and I'll leave that all day long. And then when I come home at night, I put water in it, and you can shake it a little bit for maybe 15, 30 seconds, whatever. Leave it in there, don't need to leave it too long, 15, 30 seconds. And then I rinse it again. I don't want all that water in there clumping up because it's more prone to mold that way or whatever it's doing. And then I'll shake it and put it up there again. Now, I talked about the hulls could be a problem. And if you want to make it tastier, what you do is around day 3 on alfalfa, day 3, day 4, it's starting to get pretty good. And you notice your hulls are starting to loosen up. Well, I like getting one of Mary Lou's big old bread making bowls. You know them big old bread making bowls? And what are they? Stainless steel yours are? And I'll pour water in them, and then I'll dump all my seeds in there. And I daub it. You know what daubing is? Pushing it down in the water. I'll daub it. And then I will separate it. Now, some of your hulls are going to go to the bottom. Some of the hulls are going to float at the top. Now, that's just something I do, but it tastes a whole lot better. And you're less prone to have bacterial growth in those little hulls. And so I'll kind of fish it away, and I'll spoon off all the hulls on the top, and then I'll put all my alfalfa back in the jar, and then I'll make sure I drain it, and I set it up like this so it drains water out, and then I pour all them hulls in the bottom away. And I'll do that each evening, just once a day. So in the morning I'm doing this, I'll just let it rinse real good for 15, 30 seconds. But at night, around day 3, 4, 5, 6, especially day 4, 5, and the last day, I want to rinse those hulls off. And I just do that in the evening. And it tastes better without the hulls. It's good, okay, with the hulls, but it just tastes even better. And what I'm after, though, is I'm after less propensity because I don't want any pathogen growth. And so it's real simple. Anything I've forgotten? Anything you can think of? Yes.
Did you just repeat about the oats? How many minutes in the oven, and was it Fahrenheit degrees?
It's Fahrenheit at 180, 200,
How many minutes?
about an hour. I mean, 2 hours. 2 hours. Yes. For the flaked, we only do the flaked that way. That will get rid of the phytic acid for that person who wants to use the dry oat and some, however they use it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So what seeds will work with this jar?
All of them. All of them. I've done beans in here. I've done radishes in here. All of them work in here. And they make bigger ones. I have half-gallon jars. So if you want to make even more.
What happens if you don't soak nuts and seeds and grains? What's the difference to soak them and not?
What happens is nutritionally, you get more nutrition. It aids in digestion. And you get rid of that phytic acid. Because if you're going to eat that nut raw, we don't eat beans raw, and you shouldn't eat grains raw, but we do eat nuts raw a lot of times. And when you soak them, it aids, it's just harder on digestion when you eat them raw, not soaked. You get more nutrients from the nut. And then not only if you're eating those nuts with a meal, let's say you eat, what's your favorite nut? Almonds. Almonds are the king of the nuts, we're told. And so let's say you're eating breakfast and whatever food you just had, and you eat a little handful of almonds. It has phytic acid. Now that thief that's in the raw nuts is going to go and start, it's going to mess with the other foods that you, and rob nutrients out of even not only the nutrients in the almonds, but the nutrients in the other food that you just ate for breakfast. So if you want to maximize nutrient absorption, you want to soak your nuts. Yeah.
And what happens if you do it not in the right hour? If I, have them soaked in 8 or 12 hours before sprouting on these things, is it bad?
No. And you eat them then?
Sorry?
And you eat them then?
Yeah.
It's just going to be a little soft.
Okay, very good. And if I wanted to sprout them, you can also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to check the lentils is okay, the beans. So after you soak them and sprouted them, you can eat them without cooking them.
Yes.
Even big white beans also.
Just as long as you do that 2 to 3 days, that's recommended, bean specific. Have you been to an Asian market? You can go to Asian markets and they have tables twice the size of this table, full of soybean sprouts. And the Asians come up and, they're just filling their containers with them. You may also see mung beans there also. But their big one that you'll see a lot is the soybeans sprouted. And you'll see sprouts, tails that long. Yeah.
You can do like the chickpeas and make raw hummus
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Any other questions? Sprouting's fun. It's something that a child, a young child, can become a gardener, say 5, 6 years old. And get them that's a responsibility that they can do for the house. They can do this, they can do this. And so they can do what you were talking about last night. I was talking to Mary Lou and I said, we've got to do this. We've wanted to do it for a while. And on the microgreens, we bought them and eaten them, but we just haven't made them yet. And so you showed us last night how to do it. Simple. And I said, we need to do this. And I can know she's thinking time, because we're very busy. I said, I know a gardener can do it. She says, you do? I said, yes. And so she mentioned somebody that we knew we were buying them from. They're too expensive to buy from her. And so she says, who? Rebecca, our 7-year-old granddaughter. Yeah, she could be our farmer. And we can buy them from her for the store and sell them. It's a business that she can do. She already has eggs. She's been growing. How long has she been raising chickens and selling eggs? Well, yeah, since she was able. Able to walk, she was out there getting her eggs and selling them to neighbors. And it's just a little job. No, she doesn't need them, but it's a job that she has that she has relations with the neighbors and they buy her, and as she's a little kid, it gives her responsibility. And so here's another thing we can do from what you were teaching us last night is that she can start doing this. Yeah. Okay, well, we've run out of time. We'll close this one, and our next one's going to be juicing, on some of the benefits of juicing and how juicing actually aids in autoimmune disease. It's the best thing I have found for autoimmune disease.